Can I have your attention, please? We'll be starting up shortly. Good evening and welcome to the Lowell Planning Board for Thursday, September 19th, 2019. Tonight we do have 3 public hearings on and 2 preliminary matters. The first public hearing would be for a special permit at 20 Thorncliffe Ave. An application was submitted by Ryan Rourke seeking special permit approval to construct a new single-family dwelling structure on a newly created lot that will be subdivided to an existing parcel. The proposed project will require the extension of Thorncliffe Ave to allow for appropriate frontage. The project requires a special permit from the Lowell Planning Board pursuant to section 5.1.17 to reduce the frontage by 15 feet. The subject property is located in the traditional single-family zoning district and require a special permit pursuant to 6.7 of the Lowell zoning ordinance because the proposed driveway exceeds 6%. Jerry, do you want to accuse yourself at this time?
Yes, Mr.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I will be recusing myself on this particular petition.
Good evening, Chairman Linehan, members of the board. Kenneth Lanier, Cornerstone Land Consultants, representing the applicant this evening, Ryan Rourke.
Kenneth, if I could stop you for 1 second.
Yes,
So what's
sir.
come to my attention is Mr. Bichette won't be voting, and our other member who was supposed to be here tonight wasn't here 2 weeks ago because he was ill, has now been hospitalized, and he's still in the hospital, and he won't be able to make it to tonight's meeting. So for that, I apologize. We are down 1 board member, and we are down 1 alternate member. So as of now, we only have the 4 of us here, and you need 4 votes for the special permit. So obviously, we can't go forward on that, and I apologize for the board member being in the hospital. Obviously, it's something that's out of my control. And I apologize for the people who were here at the last meeting when we knew that we wouldn't have enough people. We anticipated that the other board member who was ill, we didn't realize that he was going to be hospitalized for several weeks and unfortunately can't join us. So therefore, we really can't go forward on your hearing, give you relief, any type of relief you requested. So I don't know if we maybe could continue it. I was just talking to staff to see, we don't have an update on when the other member would be out of the hospital, and I wouldn't like to put it over for another 2 weeks since we've been 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks now, another 2 weeks. So I don't know if you can comfortable with doing it a month out, and hopefully by then we'll either have a new board member, and hopefully our other board member will be healthy and be able to attend. And again, I apologize for that, but some things are out of my control.
I understand that, Chairman. Can we continue for 2 weeks, and let me confer with my client, and if need be, I can extend further until we have an idea when you might potentially get a new member?
Sure. And,
That'd be excellent.
and therefore, I mean, if you do, I just want to make sure that if you're going to ask for a continuance, that you let staff know and anybody who's here in the neighborhood, like, let them be aware of it prior to coming down.
Absolutely.
Again, so,
Actually, can I ask that anyone who's here for the Thorncliffe petition, I'll take contact information so that if in the event that we won't be hearing it in 2 weeks, I can save them a trip downtown?
sure.
Okay.
So Christine's going to pass around a piece of paper, so anybody who's here on Thorncliffe, again, I apologize for not having enough board members present. So if they request another 2-week date, obviously we'd reach out and let you know instead of having you come forward. And again, Ken, good to see you, but I'm sorry, we can't listen to you further tonight.
Quite some time, so.
No, it's been a little while, but...
Short-lived, but it was wonderful.
And we're always welcome to see you, obviously. So, at this point, once Christine gets the information down, we'll have to entertain a motion to continue. So in the matter from 20 Thorncliffe Ave, I'll make a motion that we continue the matter till October 7th.
I'll second the motion.
Motion's made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so that vote, it carries. So if anybody who's watching this evening, if you have any questions about the October 7th meeting, whether we'll have a quorum enough for the special permit, you can call Planning and Development, and they can inform you. So hope we'll have the full quorum next time. Sorry for that. Moving along, the next matter on for site plan review and special permit is 70 Industrial Ave East. The application was submitted by Patriot Care Corp. Seeking site plan review and special permit approval to open a marijuana product manufacturing facility at the above address. The building is in the high-rise commercial zoning district. It needs site plan review approval under section 7.10 and special permit table of uses, Article 12, section 12.9T. May we hear from the applicant, please? Yeah, you can pick for there, and then just use one of the microphones that are by the council table, or the one in the corner, whatever. Just make sure the green light's on. Thank you. Either that, if you want to use that one. Yeah, and then you got to point the button there so you see the green light come on.
There you go.
Yeah. So if you're standing on this
Okay.
side, most people can see it there, we
Yes.
can see it there. Okay? So just again,
All right,
state
thank
your
you.
name for the record, please.
My name is Bob Mayerson. I am one of the founders and a director and executive with Patriot Care. Patriot Care is a we operate medical and adult use marijuana facilities here in Massachusetts. We have our dispensary located over on 70 Industrial Avenue now. We have a cultivation and manufacturing facility located at 170 Lincoln Street. At our dispensary here in Lowell, we sell medical and adult use marijuana, and we do the same in Greenfield, Massachusetts. We have a dispensary there, and we have a medical dispensary in Boston. We are part of Columbia Care, which is one of the largest medical marijuana companies in the country, and we operate in almost 15 states, including jurisdictions, including Massachusetts. I'm joined tonight by several members of the Patriot Care and Columbia Care team. David Catanzano here runs the entire operation here in Massachusetts and can help answer any questions on the operational side. Joe Moen is our VP of Legal for Columbia Care. Georgia Ganis is our VP of Security for Columbia Care. And Rebecca Brown over here is our traffic engineer that works for Greenman Peterson and can answer questions related to traffic. As I mentioned, we have been operating here in Lowell. I know we're familiar with each other because we had our hearing a year ago for the adult use license. And we've been operating here in Lowell for 4 years. We started with our medical cultivation center 4 years ago, and we've been operating our dispensary medically for 3.5 years and adult use since March of this year. In the portion of the building at 70 Industrial that we currently have the dispensary, we currently lease that portion of that space. The rest of the building is owned by someone who leases the remaining space to Segway Manufacturing. We own our building at 170 Lincoln. The building at 170 Lincoln is where we do our cultivation and manufacturing of marijuana today, and we have capacity constraints there, and we are looking to expand our operation. And the site, if you're familiar with the Lincoln and Tanner Street building, the site is not really conducive to adding significant building space, so we really needed to find a new building which we could expand into. Our number one goal was to stay in Lowell because we have quite a number of people that work for us. We wanted to keep all those jobs in Lowell, so we have the opportunity to buy the building at 70 Industrial. Segway Manufacturing is their lease is up in January, and my understanding is they're going to be moving. So the opportunity came up to buy the building, and we could use that for a portion of our operation. The intent is basically to use that building for the manufacturing part of our operation. All the cultivation of marijuana would continue to happen at 170 Lincoln Street. The manufacturing part of the operation, which is the trimming and the packaging and the production of concentrates and edibles, would occur here. So using this board as a diagram, just to reorient ourselves, the dispensary is located over here in this part of the building. The manufacturing operation would be housed in this part of the building here. This two-story building currently exists. This is actually currently a single-story structure that we would tear down, not our dispensary side, but sort of in here, and replace it with a taller structure that would not quite come up to the not come up to the roof height of the two-story structure. It would be about 20 feet high. We need a new structure because we need to have a stronger roof, and we need more height in the facility for the operations that we do. And again, the primary benefit of doing this is for us is to expand our capacity. One of the added benefits, I think, though, and I know we're going to get into the conversation about traffic and parking and that type of thing. The property that we're on has 132 spots. A lot of those are used by Segway manufacturing today. When if we receive the special permit and move the manufacturing operation here, we would have use for the entire. We would be able to use the entire lot for our employees as well as for our customers and patients that come to the facility. We estimate roughly that we would have about 50 to 60 employees on site at any given day. Not so much on the weekends. I mean, it would be more during a larger number during the week. And so that leaves available 70 to 80 spots for patients and customers. We also, next door here, over here, we have where the Marriott, the Marriott is located over here, and they circle us all around. But there's a lot on this side of the building here that we have an agreement to use that parking lot. There's an additional 53 spaces in there. So we have ample parking now. It's a little confusing because when people come to this entrance, and if they find out they can't park there, they go to that lot. It's a little bit confusing. I think that we will be able to change the flow when we own the building and can utilize the entire lot. It'll I think solve some of the issues that we have seen out on 70 Industrial. As we've gone through this, we've met with the Highlands Neighborhood Association. We met with the Marriott, and we met with our direct abutter across the street, Transgas, and I know the president of the company is here tonight, and he'll be speaking later. But I think we can address any of the concerns that they may have. We didn't really have many concerns expressed at the Neighborhood Highlands Association meeting, nor from the Marriott. As a manufacturing operation, one of the things people ask about are the odors. And the most odor from a marijuana facility comes during the growing process, and that all the growing operation will continue to remain over at 170 Lincoln. So there won't be significant odors to begin with here, which makes mitigation a lot easier. We're happy to answer any questions you have on it, but I know we submitted as part of our proposal a odor management plan for the odors that are created within the manufacturing facility. So that's already in there. Let me just grab another one of the boards here. Hold on. When we did our pre-meeting a couple weeks ago with you, there were a few items that you had raised or that were discussed at that meeting that I think we've addressed, and I'd like to show you what we decided on a couple of those pieces. One of them was that this is a sort of a minor thing, but we felt it was best to just. This was that remember in the back the existing building was 10 feet from the property line, the corner. And the choice was either to utilize the foundation and the walls in that, and you know, we could stay 10 feet away, or we could become compliant. So we decided to just cut the corner, and this is now 12 feet it would be 12 feet from the property line as required. So that piece has been dealt with. Second thing was, we talked, I forget, I think it was Frechette, raised the question about trees and could we add some trees? And I know this will come up when I know when the president of Transgas comes up, because well, as it is right now, when you look at the landscaped area to parking area, we're well in excess of what's required. I mean, it's a 5% requirement. We are at 30% relative, landscaping relative to parking area. Where we fall short is on the number of trees, and we counted the number of shade trees, and I'm not sure what an ornamental tree is exactly, but I think we have a lot of tall bushes. I don't know if those count as ornamental trees, but there's, it's actually sorry, hit the button. Relative to most of the buildings on Industrial Avenue, I think we have probably more landscaping than most. But a couple things to point out. First of all, this was a rendering. These 3 trees don't exist here. But so we have we counted 13 trees. There's a number of other tall bushes. I think the definition or the requirement under 6.1.9 would say we need 27 trees. A couple of mitigating things, though, I would ask you to consider. Well, first of all, along the entire back corner of the property, and I have another drawing for that. Hold on, because it's pretty accurate. This drawing does a better job of showing kind of the back of the facility by the Marriott. So I don't know if you're probably familiar with there's a fence between our property and the Marriott that goes all the way around the property. There's probably there's more than 30 trees along that entire perimeter. So roughly half of our perimeter is shaded by trees that are just on the other side of the property line. So from their side, there's really no sight into the building. We have, one of the technical things we have about putting trees right next to the building is that, and George would tell you that from a security perspective and from a regulation perspective, our cameras have to have a clear view of everything right around the building. So it would be difficult for us to put more trees around the building. But the more important issue, and again, we'll talk about it when, I'm sure it'll come up later during the comments. This corner on Industrial Avenue, this is a big landscaped area here. A lot of the trees that we have are located in here. I think we can probably it would probably behoove us to limb them up a little bit, because when you're coming around the corner, it's kind of it's somewhat of a blind corner. Trucks that are coming this way, and in our conversation with Transgas, I think we discussed that, and I'm not, he'll come up and he'll say his own thing, I know, but this was an issue that predated us being there. And what happens is, and I saw it the other day, I was standing outside with the surveyor, a truck was coming this way, and they take this corner kind of wide if they're speeding. And you have the Transgas trucks coming this way going into their site. They're not filled with any gas, but they have residual, I guess, left over in the truck. So I think what we need to try to do is find a way to slow the traffic down on that corner, and I know I've spoken with Eric Slagle about it after our conversation, and that'll be a conversation tonight, but I'm not trying to get us to that point yet, just to let you know that it would be hard to add any more trees here, because I think that would only add to the issue, and I think what we have there, we have to clean up a bit and limb them up so that when you're coming around the corner, you can have a better visibility to what's coming this way and coming around this way. So that was I think that was the comment that you had made about the trees. You made a comment also about the tent out front, which we've taken a look at, and I think that we're still looking at whether it makes sense to do some kind of permanent structure. It may not long-term, so we want to kind of see how that goes, but I think that one of the things is during the warm weather, we take the sides off the tent and just to get some airflow through there, but I think when we're going to put one of the sides back up so that I think it looks a lot nicer when there's at least a side on it and it doesn't look quite the same way. I saw what you were talking about the other day, and we're going to fix that part of it. There are two remaining issues two remaining things that have to be done, and we talked about this with the planning department. The stormwater review is halfway complete. That still needs to be completed. All the surveying has been done. We know we're over 200 feet from a river and 100 feet from any buffer. There's no wetland or river issue for us, but they have to complete their work, and that is sort of to come. We are also scheduled to meet next Wednesday with Deputy Superintendent Gollner to finalize and get his final sign-off on the security plan. We've shared a lot of it with them. I know they're very happy with how we've been doing. I think they're happy with how we've been doing things for the last 4 years. We've been told there's been no issues, but that is still to come. So my guess is that will mean that we won't be able to make a decision tonight, but that I just wanted to highlight for you the fact that is still remaining to be done. We were hoping we'd get it done before tonight, but schedules didn't permit that to happen. I can go into other elements of how we feel like we met all the criteria, but I think you have it in your materials, and I think it's probably behoove us to, unless you want me to, I'm happy to do it, but maybe it's better to leave that for any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Yes, please, if you would. Yep. Thank you, sir. Yep. Does anybody here this evening want to speak in favor of this project? In favor? In favor? In favor? Hearing none. Anybody like to speak in opposition? I'd like to speak. Sure. If you just have a concern, you can be listed as a concern or a question.
Concern is a better word for it.
Okay, thank you. Just your name and address for the record, if you would, sir.
Sure. My name is John Flint. I represent Transgas. We're at 87 Industrial Avenue East. We're a transportation company, and as Bob mentioned, we're right across the street from Patriot Care. We primarily transport liquefied natural gas in larger tanker trucks. So that's essentially methane chilled to minus 260 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's a liquid. We transport it from a supplier, from a terminal, excuse me, to local gas distribution companies like National Grid, Eversource, Liberty, et cetera. We've been in Lowell for over 50 years. We've been at that location for almost 50 years. We employ close to 100 people. We've always enjoyed a very amicable and cooperative relationship with city, fire, and police. So we don't actually produce, as Bob mentioned, methane or store methane on our property. So our trucks are entering and exiting our terminal pretty much empty. There is some residual, but nothing of any dangerous quantity. We have had, it hasn't all been roses, we have had a couple of issues with Patriot Care clientele. Occasionally, someone will try to leave their vehicle in our employee parking lot, which is clearly marked for authorized personnel only, and please visit the dispatcher. Our building's very secure, our entire area is fenced, electronic gate, 24-hour surveillance. We're a 24/7 operation, so we have video surveillance as well as somebody on the property. Until recently, we've also had Uber and Lyft drivers regularly dropping off Patriot Care customers at the head of our driveway, which, as you can see, is located on the curve. That's a dangerous situation for us because that can impede our tractor trailers from leaving or, more importantly, returning, because it may cause them to remain on that curve, vulnerable to any passing traffic. And there is, as Bob mentioned, a lot of large truck traffic on that curve. When we do confront these people, we get a range of responses from both the Uber drivers and the customers, ranging from indifference to we actually received a couple of physical threats. We have approached security at Patriot Care. We did not get a remedy the first time, but when we approached management, Bob and Dave, they seemed both interested and sincere in finding a solution. So that's kind of where we are. Going back to the curve, I do understand that this discussion or consideration about adding landscape to the property, we would actually be opposed to planting anything on the roadway for all the reasons Bob stated. Difficult for us to see cars coming and going there because we have a lot of cars from out of town coming in for Patriot Care business and other things, because we have a lot of large truck traffic. Sometimes the speed there isn't as prudent as it needs to be, and when people start correcting, you can see the center line there is worn away. You can see tire tracks up on the sidewalk where large vehicles sometimes try to overcompensate and track up over the curb and onto the sidewalk. A lot of pedestrian traffic from people who are parking over in the Marriott, et cetera. So any more foliage or anything on that curve wouldn't be helpful and probably make the curve more dangerous than it already is. I'll close by saying we've had fewer problems than we anticipated with this. The police presence and the amount of security people that Patriot Care have had there since they started seems to have really done the job, despite the increased traffic. And as long as the Patriot Care managers continue to remain open to our feedback, we hope to overcome our current issues as well as anything that might come up in the future. So sort of a guarded in favor of, I guess, is the way I'd characterize it. So thanks for the opportunity to speak here.
Thank you, sir, I appreciate it. Anybody else like to speak in regards to this project? In favor, against, concerns, comments? Sure.
I would just like to add, and I know I speak for David, because David's the one who really interacts mostly with your general manager over there too. We are 100% committed to solving whatever the issue is. I think by owning the building and having the use of the entire lot will actually help us quite a bit. I think we put up some additional signs. Every day we reinforce with our security people not to let this happen over there. But I think once we have the lot, we would be able to open it up and have maybe dedicated spots for Uber and Lyft to come in and drop people off and leave from there. We would have a better flow in and out of the facility so that people aren't wondering where to go and park. And I think it would take some of the confusion that may exist now on 70 Industrial. So we think that will improve things quite a bit if we own the property and have this facility there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think when we had our pre-app, I know when you mentioned the issue about the trees come up, I think, and I'll turn it over to board members in a minute, but I think one of the question was, we understand the curve line being tight, and I think one of the issues, Mr. Bichette can bring it up after I speak, is he talked about if you, not putting the tree lines up, but put small bushes in. So it didn't affect the tree line, when he talked about it, and we understand the security around the building, but I think the comment was, and I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Bichette in a minute, but if you could fix up the landscape a little bit, and if the tree line affected the street view line, then just put bushes in, smaller ones.
Well, there's plenty of can I go to the map over
Sure.
the thing of my
And then I'm going to turn it over to the board members in a minute, but that's the memory that serves me which was 2 weeks ago.
So again, it's not 100% accurate. This was a rendering done from miles away from here, but it by and large, there's really a couple of primary areas where landscaping could be added, and I think we'll need to also wait to see what work is required from the stormwater survey, that what they asked for, because it might involve the use of some of this area. We could certainly add some bushes here. We could probably add some low bushes in through here. They would have to be, in terms of without aggravating the situation that we have, they would have to be fairly low bushes. And we would be willing to do that. I think I got maybe overly focused on the tree requirement as opposed to the bushes. So if that would be acceptable, we could definitely put quite a bit more in there. But I think we're going to we would probably need to wait and see what the stormwater results show us to make sure that we don't interfere with anything on that.
Thank you. So at this point in time, I'm sorry, yeah, I'm sorry.
Hi, Natasha Vance, Transportation Engineer. I just wanted to comment on the Uber and Lyft situation that was brought up. I was not aware of that concern. The city does have a relationship with Uber and Lyft, and we have actually established drop-off and pickup locations in the downtown to deal with the traffic congestion concerns on the weekends. So if the applicant wants to reach out to the city, and we can hopefully help designate an Uber. Essentially, you can only designate an Uber and Lyft drop-off or pickup spot through the app. Other than that, it doesn't work because the driver then can opt to drop off wherever they want to, which is obviously what's happening here. So I think there might be an opportunity for the city to assist with that. I would just also note, I was not aware that this curve had a speeding problem, and in actuality, the traffic consultant for the applicant mentioned that the speeds in this curve are typically low in the 10 to 15 mile per hour radius range, which was used as a justification for a sight distance concern for people turning left out of the site driveway. So I would note that that seems to be a disparity based on what the consultant said and what the applicant is stating. I was not aware of that.
I'll let Rebecca answer that. I don't believe we measured the speeds. I think it's based on the posted speed, but I think, Rebecca, do you want to address that?
Can we, before we get down that road, can we back up? Because we lost a lot of our time on what the issue was not on the landscaping. So the beauty of having this filmed on LTC, and to the gentleman from Transgas, I don't know how much time you spent in discussing this, but we talked about the streetscape, and we talked about there was another petitioner from across the street that same evening as we get further down Industrial Ave. It has nothing to do with the curve. We had talked nothing about what was up against the building. We acknowledged that you had a tremendous amount of landscape where you're currently located, understood the security issues, but it was right where the parking is as we start to continue down further down Industrial Ave. So the whole idea was, and you start it by one project at a time, all right? So it is an industrial site. I started my banking career at 181 Industrial Ave, so Transgas was there, and I was driving by there, and I was driving a delivery truck for the bank, so I'm very familiar with that location. And it really is, it's an industrial park, but you know how industrial park, I mean, there's a hotel there, and even other communities are trying to replicate a walkable space, a space where people want to go and work, you know, not just these like on 129 and Chelmsford, those have almost become obsolete, those types of developments. So it's to try to make it a little bit more appealing. So understanding that there's a practical side to this. And it had nothing to, and it's unfortunate, you spent a lot of time talking about all of that wasn't the issue. The issue was the streetscape as it relates to beyond that curve. That curve looks great the way it is. It's beautifully landscaped, all right? So it was all about when you're coming further down, you take the curve and you're coming down Industrial Ave, right where it says Industrial Ave East, where you just see parking, you see nothing, right there. It was all about trying to do something with that space. That's all it was. I think, gentlemen, you've acknowledged that when you were at the pre-application hearing.
You're talking about at the lower right-hand corner of the...
No, not the lower right-hand corner. The upper. I think it's unfortunate. I can't believe the amount of time that was spent, and there was nothing to do with what the concern was. That is absolutely correct. And the property that was before us that evening was right across from there. And we asked them to look at putting some landscaping along there. So now you start to get down. Now you get all the way down to 181 Industrial Ave. The Coca-Cola is across the street. This starts to look pretty good.
And that's what you're talking about, keeping the shrubs down low.
If that was going to be an issue with traffic, the sight line to pull out of there, but it was just an opportunity to kind of start to continue that. That's all it was. Yeah, that's really what was the whole premise of that conversation. And we kept talking about streetscape. You know, so you've got the sidewalk, you've got the landscaping, you've got the parking, incorporate all of that into it. And again, understanding it's an industrial site, we're not trying to overkill on this, and recognizing that, I mean, we took the site visit and drive by there a lot. I think it's landscaped very nicely, the existing location. But the point was, here's an opportunity, and you do this one development at a time, right? And that's how it starts to improve. That was the whole premise of that. And remember I commented, because it's disappointing when we have people come before us for pre-application hearing to get some input, and then what do? They come back with the same plan. And that's, in essence, what happened, so.
Well, can you hear me? I apologize for that.
No.
I must have misunderstood what you know, where we were, and I think I got sidetracked by the tree comments.
Right.
And so I apologize for that.
Right,
But we can come back, when we have to come back anyway.
Right, right.
So I think that we can address it at that.
I wish you would. Again, it's an opportunity. I mean, and then when the other applicant was here for a pre-application hearing, when they come back for the approval, then again, hey, this is what you want to, oh, actually, that was the vote, yeah. And so that was the work with DPD on exactly that issue, that exact issue. So, anyways, that was the point I wanted to make with that. I was going to interrupt you when you were making the presentation, because you were really
Thanks for letting me go on my roll.
in a direction that was not what was intended whatsoever. I think that we acknowledge the existing landscaping that's currently there. It actually is attractive. And I, too, I was surprised. And again, I know the observation when you're on the ground, as you know, everybody that drives is a traffic engineer, and I know what was submitted, so now I'm a little confused as well. And it is a sharp enough curve that I do find that it's not to say there aren't some outliers that go flying down there.
Can I just ask for one piece of clarity, just so I don't disappoint the next time? Would you prefer that we take out parking to create that if it can't exist here? Is that your is that
I
sort
would,
of where
yeah.
you would
You have the
would see-
overflow parking at the hotel. You've gained, there's 135 spots that you didn't have access to.
Right.
Yeah, I would
Okay,
prefer to see that.
I just wanted to be clear.
Because I can't imagine you're going to wipe out half a dozen of them.
Well, we'll come back with something that
Understand.
meets your expectation.
Yeah, but I mean, it just goes a long way. Like I said, this starts one project at a time, you know, and it's just, it's an opportunity. It really is an opportunity. And again, I think it just makes it more pleasant for the people that want to work there. It gives them a better feel of where they are. They want to get out and walk at lunchtime, and I mean, it just starts to add to the whole area.
Got it.
So,
All right, thank you.
that was the point.
I'm going to turn it over to this young lady who was going to speak next about the traffic before Mr. Fischett did, then I'll get back to you, sir. So I know, ma'am, you wanted to say something before. Mr. Fischett had a question after our traffic engineer had something. So if you could state your name for the record, I'd appreciate
Yeah,
it.
so
Thank you.
for the record, my name's Rebecca Brown with Greenman Peterson. So the question was really related to whether speeds are an issue around that curve. So the comments that were made in the traffic study were related to the sight distance. That's why we looked at the travel speeds on the curve, is to determine whether or not there's adequate sight lines. The roadway is posted for 30 miles per hour, but coming around that curve, you really can't drive at 30 miles an hour, or you're going to do exactly what was mentioned and right up over the sidewalk. So the majority of the people who are coming around that curve are going in the 15 to 25 mile per hour range. So the speed that we used to assess the sight lines was 25 miles per hour. So hopefully that
Okay,
addresses it.
thank you. Yes, sir, if you want to come back to the microphone again, thank you. That way we can all hear you, thank you.
Yeah, not to beat a dead horse, but the speeds around that corner are excessive for the way that it's built. We've had our fence damaged twice in the past year, not by people on the same side as the fence, but by people on the other side of the road who crossed over and wrecked our fence. And in both cases, we took a hit on it because in one case, the insurance company wouldn't give us everything that we needed to repair the fence, and in the second case, the person left after they hit the fence. We also have a telephone pole approximately 15 feet from the corner of our building, and I've been there 5 years. It's been hit 3 times since I've been there. So that would tell me, that would indicate to me that there is a speed issue on that corner, and anything the city can do to ameliorate that would be appreciated, whether it's signage or flashing lights or whatever, but there is a speed issue on that corner. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, Mr. Fischett.
So I think the applicant acknowledges a few items that are outstanding, the approval from the police department, and obviously we'd want to have that in place. It looks like the fire department has approved the plan, and also the city's traffic engineer, Natasha, did provide a memo. Anything you want to add to what your comments?
No, basically, I don't think it can be both ways. It can't be a dangerous high-speed curve and a low-speed curve for sight distance. So this is the first time hearing that there's a speed condition issue at that location. So I'll reevaluate the traffic impact analysis relative to speed based on this information and make additional recommendations based on that. It seems like it might be reasonable for the applicant to install signage and flashing lights as part of this project.
Okay, and then obviously the stormwater, you said his stormwater plan is 50% complete. And I understand the breakdown you gave on the landscaping, and certainly understand the amount of landscaping that's on the site, and it was really to address, again, the streetscape. So, that was really, I think we've got some outstanding items. And again, I would agree with the city's traffic engineer, you can't have it both ways. The sight distance works because of the speed analysis, and you know, it has to be looked at. Again, with all due respect, I guess we have to look at it to see if, in fact, there's a history of that. I'm assuming there's some reports that were filed. We can get that from the police department.
Yes, I can contact LPD and see what's available.
Right, so, all right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
An update on where the police department stands? George, do you want to?
Yeah. Hi, good evening. Yes, hi, good evening, George Aganis. I've been speaking with Deputy Superintendent Goldner, and we set up a meeting to go over everything on the 25th of September. So next week we will meet. I've sent him a bunch of information, maybe too much, I don't know, but sent him a bunch of information. And so we're going to sit down together and go through everything and really kind of lay it out, so he has a better handle on the entire project. I might have lumped the dispensary in when I was talking to him with that facility, because we've already secured, a third of the building, and so I have given him overlays and whatnot. Camera overlays, access control overlays for the balance of the building as well, but I'm not sure. I just got to sit down with him, and we're going to go through it, so.
Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment. Given the different challenges and opportunities, you're talking about green space, and then you have the storm water management plan, and also parking space, security, streetscape, line of sight. I think it will be good to have a more comprehensive look at the entire site in terms of how do you lay out parking, where you take parking away, and also if you're putting in a loading area and loading area, where would be most ideal. So instead of look at it all piecemeal, I think it will be more productive to take a look, because the building is serving kind of new units. You are taking over a manufacturing space. I understand you also be doing manufacturing, but how it serve your needs and also the neighbors' concerns, and also like for the area, how can we improve it in terms of traffic flow, traffic safety, and so I think it will be good if once you hear back from the stormwater part, then how you incorporate all of this into a hopefully improved layout for the site.
So are you saying you'd like to see us present sort of the way the traffic would flow in and out of the site, more comprehensive, or is that what, I just want to make sure.
Well, not necessarily, but that definitely is a element, but I'm just saying like, I see that how the parking is laid out right now, and then there's green areas, you see there's trees, but does all of these elements work together, for the best of all the intended purposes for your operations? Like if for example, we want to put more trees along the street side, how can you kind of modify the parking aisles to fit green space, and also, if necessary, the loading area for Uber and Lyft, and how does it work out as a site? I think instead of like, just taking a chunk out and changing it, it will be more productive to look at this whole site in general.
Okay, we can do that. I just want to remind you, one of the comments I made at the pre-meeting too was that Segway Manufacturing, it is currently a manufacturing site, and the amount of truck traffic coming in and out of the site will be dramatically diminished with us having our manufacturing operation there. So from that perspective, the amount of truck traffic coming in and out of the site will be significantly less than what it is already today, and that we're dealing with today. David, yeah, I mean, Segway probably gets, David, how many trucks does Segway have in and out of there a day? 5 or 6 a day? That'll be maybe that many a week for us. I mean, it's just not the same kind of volume of traffic for us. I mean, so we located the loading dock and receiving dock where we thought it's basically where the Segway receiving dock is, because again, it was going to be less. But we can address the things you mentioned for sure, and when we come back, we'll make sure we deal and make it a holistic, show you holistically how it will work together.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you.
I don't have any comments after hearing from all the parties. So how much time would you need to finish up on the stormwater? I know you meet with the police department next week, but how much longer for the stormwater information you need?
I'll confirm back to Christine McCall, but I'm pretty sure we would be ready for the October 7th hearing. But if it looks like that wouldn't be the case, I don't want to waste your time on that, and we'll make sure we can come back when we have everything that we need to have to address everybody's questions and concerns tonight.
Tom, we're waiting for comments from our stormwater team.
Yeah.
So I think we should have them within a few days, if not the week. So staff will be prepared for the October 7th meeting. And as long as the applicant is prepared for the revised site plan to include all the things that was mentioned, I think we should be fine for the next meeting.
So would the 7th be fine for you? If not, we can go out to the next meeting.
Yep.
Fine with me.
Okay.
Which way would you like, the 7th or the further? Would you rather come back on the 7th or 2 weeks after that?
I'd prefer to go for the 7th, yeah.
So, does anybody want to make a motion to continue to October 7th?
Chairman, I make a motion to continue the hearing until October 7th.
Motion is made, and
Second?
second, all in favor say aye.
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 Chair votes yes. So this matter will be continued to October 7th. Thank you very much.
I'm just going to get my boards.
Sure, take your time, sir. Okay, moving along with the agenda, the next matter we have is a site plan and special permit for 677 and 705 Pawtucket Boulevard. An application by DMS Realty, Inc. to modify the previous approved project that consists of 7,100,000 square feet market basket supermarket with 12,400 square feet general retail space. The proposed revised project includes the construction of 71,000 square foot market basket supermarket with an adjacent retail store of 22,000 square feet, which is an increase of 9,600 square feet of the previously approved project. In addition, the applicant is proposing to demolish the existing restaurant at 705 Pawtucket Boulevard and construct a smaller drive-through restaurant that is approximately 2,600 square feet. It includes reconfiguration of the adjacent 134 space parking lot. The project requires site plan review under section 11.4 and special permit approval under section 12.4.1G. 1. This site is located in the suburban mixed-use district. May we have the applicant, please?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Gregory Curtis. I'm an attorney here in Lowell. I'm here on behalf of DSM Realty, Demoulas Supermarkets. With me tonight is Jim Lamb from LTD Limited, handling the development, and also Eric Gerard and Rob Nagy from VHB, which handle the engineering. We were before the board last year, and about Thanksgiving time, I think, we were approved in November for the development of the supermarket and a 12,000-foot extension building at the same location. We've started construction. We also obtained approvals through conservation and through the Board of Appeals for variances, and construction did commence. What's changed in the last 4 to 5 months is we've negotiated with a major retailer to hopefully put a Marshall's department store in the what was shown as a 12,000 square foot building attached to the supermarket, and increase that to 22,000. At the same time, the people that were running, the prior owners and the people that were running the restaurant, Boomers, had indicated that they're closing down as of December 31. They're no longer going to be operating the restaurant. And at that point, decision was made to raise that building and look at a national chain, more than likely a Starbucks, for the location of the existing Boomers. That would then change the site plan to the point where we need to come back for site plan review, and we think it's going to be a major plus for how the development moves forward. The Boomers building is a fairly large building. It's about 8,700 square feet, which would be taking down, and also it has a large parking lot that we would be removing and turning into a basin detention area. We're going to end up with about a 2,600 square foot building. So overall, with the increase in the size of the building, where the was going from 12 to 22, we're expecting hopefully the Marshalls. We have a net gain of about 3,500 square feet total for the project, because we're reducing the Boomers footprint and we're increasing the footprint of the 12,000 square foot outbuilding. Parking, location, ingress, egress has all pretty much stayed the same. There will be some changes that will need to be made, and we will go back to the Board of Appeals for not only some slight changes in curb cuts, but also we need to go back for signage. And we're going back next week to Conservation, because we have to deal with Conservation again because of the changes to the parking area. But we're coming up with a much larger impervious area where what once was the Boomers parking lot will now be limited to a much smaller space. I'll let the engineers discuss the comments that were made. We did have conversations with the planning and development, and hopefully there are some comments that need to be addressed, and we can address those and move this forward. So I'll turn it over to Eric Gerard right now, and he can discuss the comments that were made on the project. Thank you.
No, they revised them, and I emailed them to you.
Thank you.
Okay.
There's more. I don't know. I thought he gave me. You guys ready?
Good evening. Eric Gerard, civil engineer with VHB. And as Greg mentioned, we're here tonight seeking approval for the modifications to the site plan at the Market Basket project. The new piece to this is the request for a special permit for the drive-through facility for the restaurant user where JJ Boomers is going to get raised, which will have a drive-through component to it. So as Greg mentioned, next to the Market Basket is a new 22,000 square foot retail, an increase of 9,600 square feet, and the reduction in the restaurant space by approximately 6,100 square feet. So with the modifications to the site plan, the parking for the major retail space shifted slightly to the south, but it also allowed us to reduce the overall parking field for the restaurant. So we're eliminating, it was almost roughly 100 spaces from that JJ's parking lot, which is now going to be, it's going to be a stormwater management feature. However, it's going to resemble almost an open space and a park feel to it. Benches will be placed around it. So it will look more as an amenity, and it's also going to provide additional flood storage in that area. And with the larger area, the side slopes, they're not going to be 3-to-1, which is fairly steep. They're more at a 10-to-1 slope. So it's a very gentle looking basin, and we actually were able to raise it up slightly. Additionally, Greg mentioned that the need to go back to ZBA. There are minor changes to the curb cuts. So they're not matching exactly what was there before, so they need to go back to ZBA. In addition to the plans that you have before you, we're looking at increasing the width of that rear service drive by another 4 feet, just to give a little bit more room for the truck traffic. There is the main shift for that service drive in the back is an existing utility pole, which has infrastructure for the fire department across the street. So instead of trying to relocate that pole and all the infrastructure, we decided to go ahead and shift the drive because there was adequate space to do so. Overall, there's a reduction in impervious area by about 14,000 square feet with the modifications to the parking field. So that results in a decrease in stormwater runoff as well. With those changes, the basin was actually it's larger. So all the stormwater management components are generally the same, and we're getting the same peak rates of runoff coming off as previously designed. Overall, there's a total reduction of parking spaces by 79 total spaces on the property, which also helps with that reduction in impervious area. We are looking to have this all reviewed as one project, not phased. Construction will likely be phased as the tenants come online. And the architecture for the coffee shop we would request a staff review of that. It's going to be very complementary to the two buildings that are there, because the elevation views, they're not part of this package. Site lighting, we have included the additional pieces. Utilities, generally the same. We are connecting at the same locations. As Greg mentioned, and you guys know, the site is under construction now. A lot of that utility infrastructure is currently being installed, so we are tying off of those same pieces. Overall, there's a slight reduction in the utility demand to the city. So I'd like to turn it over to the traffic pieces of it and how these minor adjustments, and Rob Nagy can speak to that.
For the record, Robert Nagy with Vanessa Engel Bruslin, the traffic engineer working on the project. I won't go over the changes in the plan, but I will talk a little bit about the traffic impacts associated with the modifications. As you can imagine, the change from what's going to ultimately end up being the Marshalls will result in a slightly larger amount of traffic coming to and from that retail development. The elimination of the J.J. Boomers and the replacement of it with the coffee shop actually creates a different traffic pattern down there associated with that. So we prepared a brief traffic memo that tries to highlight the difference between the prior project and this one, which ultimately ends up resulting in a minor change in traffic patterns. Obviously, the coffee shop will generate a little bit more traffic during the morning peak rush hours and a little bit at lunchtime, but a lot of that traffic is going to be attracted to the site from the traveling traffic stream that's driving by it on Pawtucket and Old Ferry. Not a whole lot of people are going to go way out of their way to get to this facility, but we did account for some of those folks doing that. During the evening rush hour, traffic tends to be a little lighter at a coffee shop than it would at the restaurant use that would be out there. So again, there's going to be a slight decrease in the amount of traffic that comes during the weekday evening rush hour. And then Saturdays are sort of a hit or miss thing. It actually, what we found, well, we've run it typically using our standardized rates, what we found is that weather actually has a big impact on whether people come to a coffee shop or not and how they either park or get out of their car, or if they go through the drive-through window there. So what we've done is we've looked at the analysis there using standard industry rates, but we've also designed it to actually accommodate a little bit more of a traffic queue that might build up during those wet weather days when people don't want to get out of their car. So ultimately, at the end of the day, what we found is that morning rush hour sees a slight increase in the order of about 20 to 25 more cars coming to and from the site. Weekday evenings is about the opposite. It's a slight reduction in traffic coming to and from the site, and on the Saturday condition, it's a slight increase, but not really measurable. As Eric mentioned, there's going to be some modifications to the driveways surrounding the project. I think two of the big benefits to providing the reduced site plan, if you will, with the coffee shop is that the driveway that comes out onto Old Ferry that currently is sort of like the back entrance to J.J. Boomers will be closed, so there won't be a curb cut along Old Ferry at that location right next to the traffic signal. And that the driveway that used to be, or is just further north that would serve this project site originally, is going to be shifted a little bit further away from Pawtucket Boulevard. Not much, but about 10 feet or so away. So that'll give us a little bit more distance between that driveway and the traffic signal. The other piece I think that's important to note with the traffic plans is that by taking the building of J.J. Boomers off of the table and redesigning that site, the restaurant building was right up on the corner there, if you're familiar with how that is laid out there. By moving the site interior a little bit further, we can actually do a little bit more pedestrian connections and make that corner a little bit nicer, both from an aesthetic perspective and more importantly from a pedestrian perspective in making a connection from Pawtucket around the corner up to Old Ferry. I talked a little bit about the drive-through. That is the subject of the special permit. We've provided 10 vehicles worth of queuing from the window wrapping around the building that's shown on the plan. And in addition to that, there's about 7 or 8 spaces or car lengths more that could be stored in the parking lot should people really not want to get out of their cars and want to wait in the queue that long. that would be allowed before they actually got into the circulation aisles of the development. So in theory, you have about 17 cars worth of storage for that drive-through window, should anybody really want to wait that long and not just park their car and walk on inside. I do know in watching the Dunkin' Donuts down the street a little bit, sometimes, like I mentioned on those rainy days, that queue does extend a little bit further. So we're just trying to accommodate that on this site here. Last but not least, I will say that in addition to, the changes that I talked about here, it's important to reiterate that all the other mitigation that came along with the prior package is still on the table and is still being moved forward. I think that we've been working well with the city on the design and review of that, and look forward to seeing those elements worked into the final plan here. So with that, I'll turn it back to Greg, or we can answer questions that you may have. Sorry.
They forgot about me back here. Eric Brown, principal architect. We're out of Cambridge, Massachusetts. I think you have in your package some perspectives of the building. Is that correct? Okay. So it's a simple commentary. The Market Basket building has a bit of a historic feel, a modern building with a historic feel, quality materials, brick, block, some metal. And so the retail tenant adjacent is designed to be consistent with that style, a little bit different coloration, different materials, slightly different proportions that reflect its use. But again, it's just a simple building that reflects, that's consistent with the architecture of the grocery store. Happy to answer any questions that you have.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, Jim Lamp. I work in-house as an engineer with Market Basket. I'm with LTD. I just wanted to make a few points of clarification. I heard 2 tenants' names. Those are folks that we're talking to. Those are not tenants at this point. It's our druthers that did those. That's the way it goes, but those are not tenants that were mentioned previously. Also, just for the information of the folks here, when we last got this site permitted, we left with a permit for a signal at Varnum and Old Ferry, but we left with the promise that we would look into a roundabout and work with the city to see what we could do to address the folks of Pawtucketville and make a more significant impact on traffic there. And we are well underway on designing the roundabout. We've worked on cost estimates. The city is working on small takings for easements, and some of the land is city land that's being used. But that's the way we're heading. Market Basket saw that Lowell is really their hometown and wanted to do the right thing there. So they're spending probably twice as much money as they needed to mitigate the project, to do the right thing for the neighborhood. So just wanted to make sure everybody understood that's where it stood. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm just asked one question. Was it on the traffic engineer? We had just a couple of quick comments from our memo from our traffic engineer who's present this evening, and I think a couple of them, I think on number 4 and 5 down the bottom talked about considering at a do not enter one and also a stop sign. Do you have a chance to look at those, sir?
Yep, actually, so yeah, I'm looking at the comments from the city's traffic engineer, Ms. Vance. So she's requested that an LED in comment number 1, an LED rectangular rapid flashing beacon be provided at a mid-block crossing. We're amenable to putting that in there. The do not enter signs and right turn only signs that would be placed at the end of the driveway. We're amenable to doing that, but I do want to make it clear that that's really to stop people who might want to reverse direction at the break in the median. As part of this project, we're proposing to close that median. So while the signs could go in if there was some sort of temporary need to put them in, and we're perfectly happy to do that, the intent is to open that up with that median closed at that point in time. And then the stop sign at the first site drive off of Old Ferry, again, not an issue. We're happy to comply with that as well.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yep. At this point in time, I'm going to turn it over to the public. Anybody seems like to speak in favor of the project? Anybody in favor? In favor? In favor? In favor? Hearing none. Anybody in opposition? Sure. Come on up. Yep, you can make a comment, sure. Would like to make a comment, sure. Come on up, give us your name and address.
My name is Michael Joya. I'm a local resident.
Just give us your address, please.
67 Newbridge Road. My concern is with the traffic. I know I'm a little late to the hearings on this project. This is my first one attending, so I'm not sure if my questions have been answered. I know that there's discussions of a roundabout versus the lights at the Old Ferry and Barnum intersection, and that definitely fits the Pawtuckaville area's views. My concern, especially with the drive-through of the Starbucks and the added traffic, the traffic that builds up between the Rourke Bridge and the Old Ferry intersection. Part of that is with the school buses, part of that is just people trying to go to work. I'm not sure if there's been something that's brought up to address that, but at the 8, 9 o'clock, even 7 o'clock in the morning times, the traffic backup from the Rourke Bridge light can go back past and through the Old Ferry and Pawtuckaville Boulevard intersection. And that causes the Old Ferry street to back up. And if we are having more cars from the Starbucks trying to get onto Old Ferry to take that left onto Pawtucket Boulevard, that's going to create a little bit more of a backup, I believe, that's already can get pretty bad in the mornings. So that's my concern, just with the additional traffic from the drive-through that could potentially be a Starbucks. That's all I have on that issue.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anybody else like to speak?
Hi, David Owen, 26 Old Ferry Road. Been here a few times on both sides of this, but I have a few questions. I'd like to reiterate the traffic on Old Ferry Road currently on Monday through Thursday is backed up and dead stopped all the way in front of my house and onto Varnum. So adding extra traffic in the morning at a coffee shop is going to make that roundabout full of cars backing down onto Varnum Street even farther. So currently I have a hard time getting out of my driveway 4 mornings a week. Some reason Friday's easier. This is not going to help me. So just flagging it. It's already a pain to get out because of the school traffic and stuff, trying to get across that Rourke Bridge. It's not going to help by putting 2 turn lanes at the Old Ferry and Pawtucket Boulevard intersection because 99% of that traffic is all going left, going to that bridge. So I don't care how many lines you put on that road, it's not going to reduce that traffic backing up. A couple questions. I noticed in the traffic data that there is a calculation for morning cars going to the existing restaurant, which I find interesting because Boomers is not open in the morning. So I don't know where those cars are coming from, but obviously that's an error. I think taking the assumption that reducing Boomers' footprint and adding retail space footprint is not a 1-to-1 ratio. The average customer at Boomers is probably staying an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, depending on the day and evening. And your average customer at a retailer, Marshalls or whatnot, is probably there maybe 30 minutes at a time. So your turnover is going to be much higher. Your volume is going to be much higher. I don't believe that these traffic numbers are accurate. But again, there's no morning traffic from Boomers whatsoever. So that doesn't make sense to me. I have a question about the truck access to the loading dock. I noticed on all the diagrams that I printed out that it appears that driveway is accessible for both left and right turn. And we were told prior that trucks would not be allowed to turn into the neighborhood. But it appears that driveway is set up that you can take a right-hand turn and head to Varnum Street if you were a truck driver. Not that they want to, but they could. And we were told that they would not be going through the neighborhood originally. but it appears it's set up that you could swing that corner.
Excuse me.
I mean, just a question. Will there be traffic signals in front of the exits from the parking lot onto Old Ferry Road? And if so, what queue will that cause? People trying to get out of the parking lot onto Old Ferry, because if you go to that grocery store at 8 o'clock in the morning and you try and get out onto Old Ferry Road, where are those cars gonna go? Because that road's backed up at a dead stop till at least 9 o'clock. So, and again, I live there. I view out my window. Every morning I walk down the stairs and go, oh, there's the traffic again. Go make my coffee and hope it dies, but it's horrible. Another question I have is, I heard through the grapevine from someone who was a manager at another market basket that Wood Street would be closing shortly after this opening. Do we have some surety that that's not gonna happen? Because that bridge is already crazy. I just wanted some reassurance there, because that bridge is already a nightmare. All right. That is the majority of my questions. More so the traffic again. I hadn't heard that we were moving forward with the roundabout instead of the light. Every document I said seemed to say traffic light at that intersection of Old Ferry and Varnum. That was going to be my biggest bullet point. But
So the city is moving forward with the roundabout. We are currently working on utility relocation. It's taking longer than we thought, and some additional engineering because the roundabout will require a filing with the Concom. But we're hoping for a spring start to site work.
can we get some sort of signage about not blocking driveways?
We will take it under advisement.
That would be nice. It would calm me down a little bit and not make me come back and see you. All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else like to speak?
Hi, good evening. Deb Forgione. I am in a butter over at Townsend Avenue, and I wanted to say thank you very much for the yeoman's work. I'm working on that roundabout. You kept your word, and really, really appreciate it. So we all came in here with a big sigh of relief for that. But on the other hand, you have to save me from myself if there's going to be a Marshall's and a Starbucks. I'm going to be the 70 trips a day, so please save me. But it does bring us to another level. When they said that they mentioned Marshall's and Starbucks, if those are the tenants, then I don't know really what the next step is for the city, because the city has to step in and send, is it Vanessa? Natasha. In the morning, I would say between 6:30 and 8:30 to observe. What is it like in that area? Because the only way that we're going to have any solutions through the city is if the city actually knows how it operates. And since we all live here, we can tell you the stories. But unless you see it, live it, feel it, you can't have a solution. You can only imagine. I can just tell you that this past week, having to go to Leahy Clinic back and forth, I had gone up to the Tingsboro Bridge to get over it because I could not get out of Malden Ave. And when I went around to Ferry Road, I knew I was going to have a really hard time getting over to the lane to get over the bridge. So I took a quick right, went down Pawtucket Boulevard, went over the Tingsboro Bridge, and it was easier. So those are the choices that we had to make. And this is before Marshall's and Starbucks. So I think the city has to step in, figure out what they're going to do with the neighborhoods when people come down West Meadow Road, come down Varnum Avenue. It's going to be like a pool table. When people come down Mammoth Road and then they go down to West Meadow, they get onto Varnum, they're going to have a choice. Do I go left or do I go right? Actually, going left on Varnum is a lot easier to get on the boulevard to get the bridge, because if you take a right and try to go down any of the side streets, you really can't get out of the side streets. So I'm not sure what the city can do, but I think it has to participate in what's going to happen to the flow of the neighborhoods in the morning, going down Mammoth Road to West Meadow Road to Varnum Avenue. And once they observe really what happens in the morning now prior to a Marshall's and a Starbucks, they'll be able to participate with what's about to end when the school starts. So those are just my concerns, and I'm sure you'll incorporate everything into it and come up with some great ideas. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak? out? Anyone else? Anyone else? At this point in time, we'll turn it over to any of the board members. Have any questions or comments?
I have one comment.
So, Mr. Lockhart?
Really would like the opportunity to look at a comprehensive plan like you have here and to study it to see what questions come out of that. I mean, there's been a number of additions here tonight. We haven't had the opportunity to really review the full site plan. And just like to have that opportunity before really asking any questions. That's all I had, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Fischett?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So clearly, when you came before us with the initial site plan and received approval, and even trying to understand the traffic impacts, you know, that we had the boomers, with, and I agree with the applicant. I caught the comment too, is 25 more cars in the morning. There's nothing going the boomers now. I walk there in the morning. I watch the construction going on, and it's early when I'm there, and I live in the neighborhood. There's nothing that goes on there. So it's everything is going to be new that goes there. And honestly, if it's a Starbucks, I'll be one of the cars that's there. So
You'll be walking.
yeah, but
You'll be walking, yeah.
So because right now I go to Drum Hill. I really do. I cross the Rook Bridge on the weekends. I'll never get to work if I do that during the week. But on the weekends, on Sunday morning, you'll catch me at Starbucks in Drum Hill, and then I come back across the Rook Bridge. So I honestly think that, once again, as we talked about with the market baskets, a lot of positive things with that going in the neighborhood. And I honestly, you hit right on the features. This was probably the last structure. It's funny, I was starting from Bridge Street. If everybody can remember, there was an establishment right on the corner that was taken down before the drugstore went in, right? The CVS. Remember that? It was right at the intersection. And if you went further down to the intersection of Mammoth Road and Pawtucket Boulevard, where the McDonald's is, there was another structure that was right there on the intersection, right? It wasn't appropriate for that. You know, when you talk about the urban development, and there's all kinds of plans in the city to put the building right at the sidewalk, right at the corner, have the parking in the back. But now you get into, and we revamped the zoning so it would reflect the neighborhoods, the character. So when you look at Pawtucketville, everything starts with an S: suburban single family, suburban multifamily, suburban mixed use. So the whole idea is to have more of a suburban look, and then it has more of an auto-oriented look. But, so I think by taking down an existing building and proposing what you're proposing here, I think it fits better. Obviously, the landscaping, I'd like to see something done a little bit more on the Old Ferry side, possibly. Take a look at that. But I think along the boulevard, I still like that. You still have the flowering trees there. I did want to reiterate, because again, you've made this very, I think, very organized for us. But, you know, on the site, there's going to be 227 trees and 1,099 shrubs, which is just absolutely, you know, and I commend you for that. I really, I think that was important for this site. But, you know, I look at the coffee shop, and even I'm trying to think of the turn motions. And I will tell you, for the neighborhood right now, so I live on the street that when they put the Dunkin' Donuts in, and then they had the wisdom to close Bedford Ave, which would have been the access to the Dunkin' Donuts. Well, now, if you live in Varnum Ave, you have to go to the street, my street, okay? And I saw the traffic increase, right? And go all the way to almost Lowell General Hospital, go down my street to turn on the boulevard to get over there, all right? And if you're closer, you go Old Ferry, you hit the controlled traffic intersection signalization, you go down and you hit another light, and you go all the way down to get to, right? So really not easy to get to. And I look at this and say, it's not easy for the neighborhood to get to. So if you go down Old Ferry, how are you going to access this? So what you're going to do, you're going to go down Townsend Ave, so that you can come down beyond it and come to this site. I don't know how, you know, so.
To access where the coffee shop's gonna be?
Yeah, yeah.
You can come down Old Ferry Road and turn into the development and then turn into the coffee shop.
I highly, well, again, I think we need to have that looked at. I don't know about traffic patterns, but I can't imagine people negotiating through the parking lot to get in
Well,
there.
it's 7 o'clock in the morning. I mean, Market Basket opens at 7 o'clock in the morning. A Marshall's, if that isn't the case, or retail is probably not gonna open till 9 or even
But that's
after
your
9.
intent, is to try to make that the main point of entry at that
Well, that's
point.
gonna be one point of entry. I think people coming down westbound on Pawtucket are gonna turn in as they would turn in and then turn back out, but you have to continue westbound. You
Right.
can't turn out, and once that median is blocked off,
And then it looks
you're
like,
going westbound the whole way.
and it looks like we're replicating, again, the situation where when people come out of Townsend Ave and they cut right across 3 lanes of traffic to get in line to turn on the Rourke Bridge. If you're coming out of Starbucks, if you're going in, it's Starbucks, I can't, the coffee shop, okay? If you're coming out of the coffee shop and you want to get your coffee and then head off to the Rourke Bridge, you have a very short distance to cut across 3 lanes of traffic to get into the left-hand lane to turn at that light, basically to do a U-turn at that light to get onto the Rourke Bridge. I just think there's a lot of challenges
Well,
here. You're right.
Could you just cut the microphone, please?
Yeah.
sir? Thank you.
It's just,
Answer the question.
this is basically a replication of what's down the road as far as the
Right,
patterns.
but
So,
the exit coming out of where the J.J. Boomers is basically, I think, is the same location we're
Right.
looking at. But you're talking about people coming out of a coffee shop and trying to get over 3 lanes. We know what the problem is. The problem is the Rourke Bridge.
oh, I understand,
that's the
but it would be, we would be derelict in our duties to ignore what the potential issues could be. Again, safety is an issue.
Right.
And as we look at this, what we have currently to work with, I just think we need to properly address this. So these are some of the concerns I have. I think it needs to really be looked at a little bit more. Also, Ms. Vance had on her comments, and I don't believe it was addressed here, item number 3. There was actually 2 items here. The most significant change was for Sunday daily trips, which are increasing by 620 new site trips, for a total, Saturday, for a total of 11,042. As the consultant evaluated the impact to LOS queuing, Old Ferry, Varnum Ave for both traffic signal and for proposed roundabout, will there be any impact for LOS queuing at Old Ferry and Pawtucket Boulevard? And I think, was that addressed at all?
I did get a response from the applicant yesterday, and I only forwarded it to Christine today. I don't believe you all
Yeah,
have seen them,
she's
but
working.
Rob could probably, I would think
Yeah,
would
if we
be able
could
to
expand
address.
on that, because obviously that caught my attention.
Yeah, just to clarify that, that's 600 new daily trips over the course of a day, not an hour. So that's 300 coming in, 300 leaving the site. When that gets transposed over the course of a typical 12-hour day, that impact is not, overly significant. So what we did was, to answer Ms. Vance's comment, was we ran a quick analysis of the intersection at Old Ferry and Pawtucket, provided her information both on operations as well as queuing, to demonstrate that the impact at that location during a Saturday midday rush hour or peak period is not going to be, significantly changed in any way, shape, or form. Gets back a little bit to the driveway closures as well, making sure that, there's not opportunities for people to go into the directions that they would normally go. Pulling the driveway a little further away from the intersection makes it a little bit more easy to get into the back of the queue that would be forming at that location. If I also may, there were a couple of comments on, the existing operations down there. I do want to reiterate to the board that the traffic signal at Old Ferry on Pawtucket will be upgraded and changed. We're going to be adding lanes down there, and the actual signal controller itself down there will be modified as well. So the technology and the detection and everything that's in that signal will be upgraded as part of this project. Granted, the knot in the stream is still likely going to be the Rourke Bridge, but that intersection in and of itself will be upgraded.
Because, that gentleman is not imagining the situation.
No,
in the
no,
morning.
we're well aware of that.
That's what it is, yeah, yeah.
But the detection that goes into that will help move traffic when the demands are there much easier, much more efficiently than what's out there today.
Right.
Not going to say it's solving all
Right,
the
I
problems,
understood.
but it's definitely going to make it a little bit better.
And while you're there, could you just, the other item, and I suspect that it was addressed, is the chip generation calculations. Again, item number 2, regarding some assumptions, whether or not there was data available, and other,
The comment was intended to say, I reviewed their trip generation calculations. They made an assumption about 25% pass-by in, for the days and times where they did not, where that data is not available, and I was okay with that assumption. That's what that was intended to say.
Okay, all right.
And one last thing, I know there was some concern about the trip generation in the morning of the JJ Boomers. We're well aware of the fact that that business does not operate in the morning. We were simply comparing what if somebody came in and reused that site and opened up some sort of breakfast service, they wouldn't need to come back and get site plan approval or anything like that. They could just redo that. So what we typically do as traffic engineers is we compare what's there today, what could be there today,
Right.
and what will be there with our proposal. So that's the difference
The-
between.
The whole idea of a drive-through changes.
Yep.
I mean, we've had it in
Oh,
other sections of the city, and
Yep.
members here denied them because it was a drive-through.
Yep.
And it was going to have an impact on the neighborhood. So granted, this isn't, it's interesting because it's not direct, it's not residential homes directly abutting the site of this. However, the flow of traffic to get to this site, because it will be a trip generator. This is definitely going to be a trip generator. There's no question about it.
And I would, yeah, and on that point, I would add that as part of the original approvals for this project, we did make a contribution to the city as part of this that would focus on traffic calming throughout those neighborhoods that we believe and we're concerned that might get affected by unintended consequences of this project.
There will be an ongoing, I think, for 5 years, I believe.
Yeah, and we'll be monitoring how
Yeah.
traffic is flowing through this after the store is opened as well and not going anywhere to be able to address some of those questions and concerns.
Understood. All right, at this time, Mr. Chairman, I have no other comments at the moment.
Caleb, any questions, comments?
There is a comment about like sweet path access analysis regarding the drive-through. Just wanted to check with the staff whether you receive any additional drawings on that. I think it's one of the last comments.
Comment number 3?
On the last page.
Oh, the building department had a question about whether or not the emergency vehicle could accommodate through the drive-through.
Yes. Will accommodate.
Yes, we've ran some analysis on that. I actually have a figure. I got one. I can give it to Christine or forward it along. But absolutely, we confirm that fire truck can get through and around. And to bring up another point that was previously brought up for the radius coming out at the service drive, a fire truck would certainly want to be able to make that turn if needed as well. So that it's not there for the delivery trucks. It's more for accommodating emergency vehicles too.
Yeah, when taking note of, the neighborhood, I know people, they're very frustrated with the traffic situation. Mr. Fischette lives in the area, Deb lives in the area, a lot of people. I live up in Belvedere, so I try to get out onto Andover Street, and I wait for 15 minutes for someone to give me a break to get out off a side street. So we all have that, but with the implementation of the roundabout, with the implementation of new traffic lights, with an extra lane, with the building coming down, with better visibility, with better sidewalks, with better entrance and exits, it's really, there is an increase because it is going to be a point of destination, but it's also going to be a much better situation once this project's completed. And I think we talked about that whole idea of a traffic light, and the gentleman spoke about traffic backed up in front. He can't even get out of his driveway. Hopefully that's going to eliminate that. It may be tough in the morning sometimes going down Old Ferry towards Varnum, towards Pawtucket Boulevard, but in the long run, I think we're going to be in a much better situation with traffic flow and the fact that when we go to conservation next week, we're taking a lot of permanent pavement out of the picture. And, that pavement doesn't allow water to seep into the ground. We know once every 10 years, it could be a good flood over there, and there could be some parking lot issues, but hopefully this is gonna be a major improvement for the area, and who doesn't like a good coffee? I don't know. Hopefully it's gonna work out, but I don't know if you wanna continue this, to the next meeting, if we need to. It's up to you. I know Mr. Lockhart indicated he wanted to have some more further review.
I have to say, I'd almost want to have Jeffrey Dirk take a look at this again as an independent. I just,
We can't appoint him.
we can't,
We'd have to put it out to bid. We couldn't hire him
We can't pick him.
because we've already reached our threshold with him. We've already paid him $10,000, so
Okay.
we have to put it out for solicitation.
I mean, these are big impact to the site plan that was originally approved. I mean, there's no denying that.
Right.
Big impact, right.
What we did before, when we got the third person in, we can make a recommendation of that.
Right.
They put out the bid, and they come in. He happened to be the better bidder.
Right.
We can't pick who wants it. Even the applicant last time wanted us to give Jeffrey Dirk, and we told him we couldn't. I'm not the applicant, even
No.
the neighborhood.
But
We said, There's a
to-
process. We have to put out for bid.
Yeah.
And then they come in. If he's a little bidder, then the city works with him.
But at this point, even he's at his limit, you said? Is that, is there,
So I can't just go out and hire
Right,
him
right.
to do the peer review. I can include him in the solicitation letter, but he'd have to be the most qualified and lowest bid, and I can't guarantee that.
right? I understand, yeah.
So if you need the peer review, we could do it, whether he comes in at the right bid or not, be up to him.
Yeah.
Up to them, yeah.
I mean,
So, Mr. Chairman, I still have one question, but I see that.
Yeah, we'll get them. It's our turn right now. Then wait. He had his turn already. I didn't even get my turn yet. Wait, I can see him standing, he's a big man. but-
All right. So,
Certain order here.
Makes
If
sense.
I'm out of order, then the whole meeting starts over.
I want to give the architect some love, so I want to ask an architectural question.
Yep, you'll get a chance.
Can you go over the rationale of just using a different kind of color scheme for the tenant? Because I do, maybe not as an architect, but feel like it would be nice to have a cohesiveness, like the drive-through building and also the entire building might be the same style and coloring. But I'm sure you have some reasons behind using a different brick color.
So, thank you for your comments. So the styling is the same, styling. And, you know, if you look around in history, the way buildings evolve, they're not always built at the same time. And so we're trying to suggest that this is how it could have evolved over time. So you have a building, it's built, the next building is built, the next building is built, and they're similar but different. And if we have everything the same color, then there's no differentiation for the grocery store, for the dry goods store, for the coffee store. So we'd like to have them be a similar style and genre, but slightly different, a little bit of their own character and a little bit of their own brand being able to be expressed.
I see.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. You can. I just have to follow protocol here. Everybody gets a chance.
Two more quick ones. I noticed on the plans that I downloaded, the curb cut for the coffee shop onto Pawtucket Boulevard, it appears the driveway is structured so that it's an out only, exit only. Am I correct? So 100% of every visitor going to Starbucks is going to go on Old Ferry Road? No. How else they get into it? Right. So you're saying that they can come in on the other side of the catch basin, closer to the bowling alley? Will there be signage there to encourage them to turn in there? Oh, because, I mean, that building is quite far from that entrance. So if you're driving down the boulevard wanting to go to Starbucks and you drive up to Starbucks and you can't turn in, then everybody's going on Old Ferry. So I just think access from Pawtucket Boulevard is straightly restricted to Old Ferry, or 99% of it. My other question is, I know I'm beating a dead horse about the queuing traffic on Old Ferry, but if you have traffic coming down Old Ferry Road in the evening trying to turn into Market Basket, so if you're heading from Varnum towards Pawtucket Boulevard to pull into Market Basket, and the evening traffic is such a high volume going up Old Ferry Road, that's going to back up traffic because that person's going to sit there queuing, waiting to take that left-hand turn into the parking lot. It's only one lane each way. There's no turn lane. There's nothing there. So anybody trying to head straight is going to be stuck behind that one person waiting to take a left-hand turn across rush hour traffic. That's going to create an even more logjam on that road because there's no turn lane there.
So what I'm hearing is that there's a lot of concerns about the flow on the site and then the exit. And I know the board did mention they were interested in a peer review, but I think maybe we should give the applicant a stab at trying to solve for it first,
Okay.
because it's not part of their application. And it would give them time to discuss some of the concerns that were brought up tonight.
The only thing is that if we don't feel it's been adequately addressed, then we may be still looking for a peer review.
I'm just afraid if we send it out as a peer review as is, we're not going to get the results, the best result or the best plan.
That's a good point.
So
I understand your point.
it's up to the board, but I would suggest
Yep, no, I
maybe we give
understand
the
your point.
applicant a
Yeah,
crack
no,
first.
I understand your point. Yeah, that makes sense. No, that makes sense. Because my question would be even to the applicant, though, is if we were looking to continue this, again, we've got quite an agenda on for October 7th. Is that October 21st? Is that something that would work? And would that should give you ample time, I would hope.
We're not asking for a peer review on that.
No,
We're looking just
not
to
at
come
this time.
back here on the,
I think what
Right.
Christine suggested, I think, makes a lot of sense. The
Right.
idea is if we can come up with a plan that addresses a lot of the concerns that were brought up, if in fact this body, and I can't speak for my fellow board members, still have some concerns that we feel we would benefit by having a peer review, we would have a plan that you have honed to a point that we then have something that would be, I think, what Christine was commenting, is that would have more value for a peer review based on input that you've already received.
Or it would at least answer some of the questions that have been raised tonight.
Yeah.
So the question, what they're saying is, Mr. Curtis says, give you an opportunity to respond to the questions.
Right.
Come back, we address those questions, and then at that point, we feel a peer review is necessary. Maybe the question could go off for peer review. But if we just continue it to let the applicant address the issues that came up, and then that might be satisfactory at the next meeting.
yeah,
without requesting a peer review.
that's our goal.
Okay.
Rather than having
Sure.
to come back on the 21st and then
Yeah.
end up you indicating that we'd have to have a peer review. I don't
Right.
think that's
So hopefully, I mean,
hopefully the direction
yeah, I
we're
mean, that's
going.
what I think was what your request is between staff and Mr. Fischett, yeah. Let you address some of the concerns, and see how we come back on the 21st, and then see what happens from there.
Yeah, we can go out because you guys are pretty busy on the next
Yeah,
meeting.
we already
so-
have 3 matters on, we continue 2 tonight.
Yeah,
And we can't go past 11 o'clock, you have to say get till 11, then we tell you we're seeing another week.
that's fine. We continue out to the 21st. Hopefully, we'll gather a little more information,
Okay.
give everybody a little more time to digest what's going on, and hopefully resolve it at that time.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think. Mr. Chairman, I put that in the form of a motion that we continue the matter with the applicant to address concerns that were raised here this evening and continue the matter until October 21st.
I'll second the motion.
Motion made and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The matter has been continued. Thank you,
Thank you.
council, thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for speaking this evening. So for the record, the matter will be continued to October 21st. Thank you.
Long meeting.
see, you have our files right on.
Okay, moving along on our agenda. Next matter we have is a pre-application site plan review and special permit for 160 Middlesex Street. John Gary, Esquire, on behalf of the above address, LLC, has requested that the planning board provide a preliminary review of their proposed project at the address listed above. This is not a public hearing. The board will render no decision related to the site plan or special permit or guarantees any future decision, whether positive or negative, on any project that requires pre-application review. The application was submitted, the applicant has submitted plans to construct a new 15,886 square foot building with 24 studio apartments and 1 ground floor commercial unit in the vacant lot at the above address. The lot is in the downtown mixed-use zoning district. Site plan review and special permit are required. And we hear from the applicant, please.
Good evening, Chairman Lenahan, members of the board. For the record, my name is Attorney Steve Geary. I represent 160 Middlesex LLC and Justin McFarland, who is the owner of that. I'm here today with the team for this project, my brother John Geary, who's my law partner, Peter Vanko, who is the architect on this project, Brian Gaudreau, who is the engineer from Hancock Associates. I know it's been a long night, so and this is a preliminary hearing, so I'll be as brief as possible and just try to hit the points as to why we marked this up for a preliminary hearing. But generally is because we're very excited about this project and we wanted to share the idea with this board prior to our formal application, which we're in the process of taking care of now. So my client owns a vacant lot at 160 Middlesex Street, and that's across from the Registry of Deeds. And he's proposing to build a 5-story building there with approximately 1,500 square feet of commercial space on the first floor, and then the floors 2 to 5, 6 units per floor for a total of 24 units in a residential capacity. These units are all going to be kind of micro units, about 500 square feet. He's going to target single tenants who are professionals who have no need or desire to have a car, who don't, who use scooters, who use Uber, who use public transportation, or any other public means of getting around. But professionals generally who want to live alone and want to live in that area. The total cost of this project is going to be about $4.3 million. So it's another example of a out-of-town developer coming into the city and investing their money into an area that this city had targeted for the last 25 years as development for commercial and residential mixed buildings. Exactly what this is. So it is in a historic area, so we have been working with Steve Stoll. The architect and Steve Stoll are 95% in agreement as to the facade of the building and the other points that deal with the historic aspect of it and how it will be designed. We will be appearing before this board for site plan review and special permit, and then we'll be appearing before the ZBA for a variance for the 24 parking spots that are required. As you know, it's one spot per bedroom, and there's 24 spots, and we're exempt on the commercial part. So again, the idea here is micro-mobility. It's a concept that has been going around in all of the major cities as far as developers dealing with the lack of parking. There is virtually zero parking on this spot at all. It is surrounded by major parking lots, public parking lots, in addition to all the smaller lots that are available. Very similar to another project that we did on Appleton Street. After 4:30, there's plenty of parking everywhere. So my client is not targeting a tenant who would be having a car, but it would be realistic to think that some would, and we think that that can be addressed with a transportation plan that we plan on submitting at some point. So we're very excited about this project. Again, it's new construction. It's going to be a 5-story building with the commercial on the first floor and 24 micro units above that. It's going to be very well designed, and I think once I turn it over to Peter in a minute, you will see that this building really has a lot of potential for the city. So thank you, and if you have any questions, we're happy to answer.
How many stories, Attorney Gary?
5 stories.
Okay.
First story is commercial. That's going to be targeted towards a restaurant or the like, and then floors 2 through 5 are all going to have the 6 units per story, and it's really interesting, and Peter will get into the aspect of what's inside the building. So, Peter?
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Not to reiterate too much of what was already said, but I just want to walk you quickly through the plans. We're excited about this building because we think it's going to really enliven this district. It's going to take what is currently a dilapidated lot and really energize the downtown district. So we're really excited about it. As was mentioned, we've been working with Steve Sowell for about 1.5 years on this project. We have come to this point. We worked with National Park Service. We're at that last 5% in terms of aesthetics. The massing feels right to all of us, and it's doing all the right things. From walking you through a layout perspective, and actually we will just start elevationally. It's each major flat elevation. As mentioned, it's a 5-story building. It's 4 residential levels over 1 commercial level, and that 1 commercial level is serving a potential future tenant. Could be a restaurant, could be retail, could be any one of those things. And then as well, the residential building entry. This is your major elevation on Middlesex. The residential entry is to the far left, and the commercial suite, yet to be determined what the use would be, is in the lower right-hand side. From there up, every floor plate on the residential levels is the same. So as we get into those, just keep in mind, we have Juliet balconies shown, so there's going to be a little bit of dialogue with the street from the inside outside. We think that is a modern building principle. It's a good thing to have dialogue between the inhabitants and the street below. Turning the corner here on South Street, this would be the other most prominent elevation. And we are showing there in the lower left-hand corner, storefront, that would be your restaurant or the tenant to be determined. There above, we have some perforations in the form of windows up higher that are residential windows. These are operable windows, of course, and we have actually our stair tower, which rises all the way to the top of the building, is their central. Turning around to the back side of the building, not prominent in any way, shape, or form. It's facing a parking lot. It has a loading zone, but we do have some dialogue with balconies and perforations to the facade on the back as well. And then turning to the last facade, we're taking the approach of it being a little bit more like a mill building with infilled openings, and it is a little bit more blank. It's right on the property line, but through some clever use of material, we think we can make it a really charming elevation. Massing-wise, I'm going to go just quickly through these. 15,000 square foot building. Middlesex is on the lower, it's on the bottom of these sheets, and South Street would be on the right side of the building. So residential entry in this plan diagram is to the far left. All the typical trappings of a modern day apartment building, elevator, 2 stairs, and then the open potential restaurant or tenant suite is there in the lower right. Quickly, the micro units that have been discussed, these range anywhere from 420 to about 470 square feet. They are all functioning on a Murphy bed concept. And the concept is there's some convertibility in here. They're really, really neat units from the standpoint of just the way that they're going to live. They're going to be highly attractive to certain renter typology who's going to be interested in that smaller footprint living. There's no age boundaries on this. We see a lot of people absorbing these units who are either empty nesters or people who are coming back into urban areas. A wide array of interested people, I'm sure, will be absorbing these. Every floor is the same, so I won't stick too long on those 4 floors. Typical stacking diagram that you see in many other apartment buildings. And that is it. Just passing the torch, there is a model, physical model here. If you want to spin it and take a look at it, we certainly do that. But in the interest of time, I would like to pass to Brian Goudreau. He's our civil engineer, and he has can run you through just the site plan.
Where's the site plan? So, it's where? Right here? Okay. So good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the board. My name is Brian Goudreau with Hancock Associates. So this is a preliminary plan that's before you. However, it does have the benefit of a fully engineered design. So we went through a department head meeting and kind of shook out all of the technical questions and details with respect to the site. As Peter was indicating, the building really is the parcel, and then there's a 10-foot alleyway to the rear that with access off South Street. So all of our utilities are going to be based in that 10-foot alleyway. Now, one of the key points is with respect to stormwater management. We're proposing porous pavement and roof leaders, so the entirety of the roof is going to go into the ground for infiltration, and then there's an ultimate point of discharge in the combined sewer on South Street. We did coordinate with Mike Stewart at Lowell Regional Wastewater Utility, and he's fully on board with our design approach and how we're connecting into his system. So with respect to stormwater management, we think we have it nailed, basically. So there is not going to be any street discharge whatsoever. Everything will be handled within that alleyway. He's also requiring a grease trap. Grease trap will be placed in that area, and then we're in coordination with National Grid to make sure that we can get our electric service. Obviously, municipal water and then gas will service the building as well. With that said, if there's any other team members that would like to speak, feel free. Otherwise, we're here to answer questions.
Thank you.
So that's pretty much it, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. We're eager to present this just as briefly as we could because we know it's late, and we will be back here shortly at a formal meeting, public hearing. So if there's any specific questions you have or any general questions, we're happy to answer those. I didn't touch on the fact that we did meet last week with multiple department heads with the city, and we kind of had this meeting that we're having right now. And we thought it was a good idea to have a preliminary meeting before this board who will be deciding these issues. So
I don't have any questions myself. I thought we got a good comment from Ms. McCall, which was our senior planner, obviously that you have a copy of. And I guess a lot of times we never had these for the pre-app. They wouldn't give you comments. I mean, so now since Ms. McCall's been here, you've been getting it. So that definitely benefits the applicant. And I think a lot of comments that she mentioned, breaks down about the parking and how close you are to parking garages and, with the walk distances and, but I think she did a very good job on breaking that down. So I don't have any questions, and I'll turn it over to any of the board members if they have any questions.
I just have a couple of things that she's outlined here, the general comments. Item 2, page 3, it says the elevation to a blank wall facing the church at 150 Middlesex Street.
yes, so the other, is Peter? Yes. Blank wall.
There's an opportunity to address that. I think that's important.
Agreed. And there actually has been some discussion of public art possibly lighting it as well. So we're doing everything we can through the materiality. During the day, I think it will have a lot of liveliness with the current elevation. However, I could certainly see some need for nighttime accentuation, as well as we did talk about public art as a potential for making it useful. Would that make sense? Okay.
They're starting to develop a policy in their own historic records. So keep the ear to the ground on that.
Okay, excellent.
The only other comment I'd like to make on page 4, down at the bottom, incoming bike storage room shown on the plan is not connected to the other storage.
It might be a good connection to make, absolutely. Yeah.
The other thing that I think would be quite interesting, and seeing up to this one, page 4, item 9, about the transportation and management. Relative to micro-mobility, parking demand, would be an interesting thing to look at.
Absolutely. Yeah, excellent, thank you.
Caleb, any questions?
Yes. So, actually, the blank wall was slightly of my concern first, but I actually think that like the infill actually is interesting, have a pattern. Actually, as you're presenting the rear side, the not so prominent side, that's slightly on the more boring side because of all the excitement on the other side. So I'm just wondering if possible, because I mean it's facing a parking lot, but there is a cafe right behind as well, and also because of the height of the building, you can see it from the next street, which also need a lot of help, in my opinion. So if there's a way to add a little of accent or something in the rear, I think it will communicate better with the other side of the facade as well.
Okay, great, thank you.
And alongside with the bike room, I also kind of take a good look at the ground floor, and according to the staff comment, I think we're missing a sprinkler room somewhere, and also I'm wondering if the lobby can be have access in the rear as well because of the loading. I would think that would be nice to have a loading area away from the streets, the busy streets, so that since you have the driveway in the back. And also that might connect with the bike room, wherever it will be, and also the orientation of the elevator. Probably the scale is larger than what I see here, but then I would think that when people move in and out, even though it's micro apartments, it might be a little challenging to do the turn if the hallway is restricted. So let's see what you can do.
That's great, thank you. Just food for thought, we actually have about 4 feet of elevational difference between the front of the building and the back.
I see.
That's limiting some of our connective ability. Otherwise, we have to have an internal ramp, and we have to, for MAAB.
I see.
So we have some problems with making that connection from a accessibility code standpoint.
All right. Well, I just think that it would still be nice to move the loading to the rear if possible, but I understand the great difference and the challenge of a ramp.
Thank you so much for your comments.
Thank you.
Great.
Just a comment, Mr. Chairman, as you mentioned, the memo, I think the memo is 4.5 pages long, so I'm assuming the applicant's going to provide responses to each of the items systemically when you come back, which will be helpful. So, great, thank you.
I would just like to say that as much as I would love to take credit for this memo, it was actually Jared who put it together, and it's very impressive. I wanted to make sure credit was given where credit was due.
Thanks to Christine for amazing work helping us get this far.
And thank
Thank you.
Okay, moving along on the agenda, we have another pre-application matter, and this is a site plan review and a special permit for 113 Walker Street. JJN Realty Trust has requested that the planning board provide a preliminary review of the proposed project at the address listed above. This is not a public hearing. The planning board will render no decision related to the site plan review or special permit, nor guarantee any future decisions, whether positive or negative, of any project that receives pre-application review. The applicant has submitted plans to subdivide the existing parcel into 2 lots. 4 townhouses are proposed on Lot A, and 5 townhouses are proposed on Lot B. Both lots will be serviced by a common driveway. The subject property is located in the traditional multi-family zoning district and needs a site plan and a special permit. May we hear from the applicant, please?
Good evening, Chairman and members of the board. For the record, my name is Matt Hammer with Lamplex Engineering and Surveying, 10 George Street here in Lowell. We're here before you this evening representing JJN Realty Trust. I've done a number of projects with these folks down in Chelmsford. They're now looking at this piece here, which they've purchased on Walker Street. This is 116 Walker Street. The existing parcel is 36,841 square feet. It's a very large parcel of land. When you look at the other, bless you, Mr. Lockhart, compared to the other parcels in the neighborhood, there's an existing 2-family dwelling on the parcel. You can see how much land there is around the parcel. And most of the homes on Walker Street are 2-3 family. There's an immediate 9-room apartment building directly next to us. And it's a pretty dense neighborhood. Our proposal, we went through various renditions of what was the best use for the property. We had some other plans which, if you take the parcel and you subdivide it into 2 parcels of land, you could do a garden-style building on each one, and you'd have parking in the rear for each one and an individual access drive off of Walker Street. And we felt as though to do an access private drive up into the middle of the project and then be able to incorporate drives into each of the townhouses, similar to what was done on Talbot Square off of Chestnut Street, as well as the townhouses that are being done up on Gorham Street at the 1400 Motors site. It lends itself to a more diverse type of residential structures than what's on the street as it is now on Walker Street. So we're proposing a drive with access to a parking space out in front and a garage on each unit. There would be 5 townhouses in a row here, and then on the other side of the access drive there would be 4 townhouses. The nice thing about having the additional land is that we're able to provide a full emergency turnaround if need be for the fire truck. And then we can also incorporate some visitor parking spaces in the rear, and we could even incorporate even more. But what this does is it allows for all this green space to be there to support the actual townhouses themselves. By subdividing the parcel, we're limited to the number of townhouse units on each parcel for the land area per dwelling unit calculation. That's why on this side it's 5 units and on this side it's 4 units. We could put another unit here to kind of balance it out, which is what we would initially like to do. But this plan here does meet all the zoning compliance to the land area per dwelling unit for the parcels themselves. This here is a rendering of the units themselves. We went into a preliminary meeting with Christine McCall to go over this project. And, you know, we do realize that when you know, as part of her comments that was helpful that we received from DPD, is that we're trying to, you know, wrap around. We don't want the end of the building to look like the end of the building. We wanted to see if we can incorporate it to look like the front of the building, even though the townhouses face the access drive. So what we did on this rendering was wrap the entrance element around the corner. And I know one of the comments was, well, can you extend that down further and possibly even put in a door here? But we'd like to do this and have the door next to the garage, but if it was an element that was important to the board to have a door on this front side, we'd obviously could do that. The nice thing about the size of the parcel, we're able to incorporate additional elements without being restricted to the building setback also. So it's nice that we have room to move these units around if need be in order to get this element on the front of the building wrapped around the townhouses themselves. This access drive would be maintained by a homeowners association. The other good thing about, I feel, about this access drive is if these two lots and this project is serviced by one homeowners association document and the same maintenance facility to maintain both lots, then they're going to be consistently maintained so that one's not offset by the other depending on who's managing each of the individual lots. So we feel as though that's going to be a benefit to the two developments. The other thing is that if you go down Walker Street, you'll notice that there's a lot of utilized on-street parking on Walker Street. There's not a lot of people that have enough land in order to accommodate the parking for the number of units they have in those buildings. So by doing one access drive saves on parking out on the street, and instead of just doing two separate ones on the two separate parcels. So we feel as though that this does not degrade from the zoning in the way that this project can limit the amount of parking that would be taken up by having two access drives. We also feel that this is going to be a nice change for the street itself on that street, because they're all bigger structures that are right up on the sidewalk on that street, and then this will allow for housing that'll be more conducive to you know, people that want to start you know, getting their first home, as well as this could be conducive to an empty nester type scenarios, whereas a lot of the other apartment buildings are probably fairly consistent with the type of people that are going into those housing units. You're going to find when we come in that this project is not nearly as dense as all the other buildings on all the other lots on the street. And the nice thing is that this project can accommodate, you know, just doing the plastic totes in the garages, which is good, which was a comment that came through from DPD, where those plastic totes can be brought to the end and the trash pickup can happen on the access drive. So you're not talking about a dumpster type scenario for trash, which I think is a cleaner look when you have the trash units in people's garages. And the additional visitor spaces that are going to be available. I know that's always a concern when we get up beyond a few dwelling units, that it's nice to have some additional parking, and we have ample room for additional parking with this plan. And I can answer any questions from the board.
Regarding the trash, this memo Christine dated September 17th. Nobody wish to ask that you
Yeah, so we could do that down here on Walker Street. We could make an area down here specifically for those. Yep, so we would show that. This project is meant to be a condominium project, so condominium association. Yep.
I think it's way too much.
That's what I was just gonna say.
Way too much. Way too much. I don't think it's gonna help neighborhood one bit. I think it's gonna kill neighborhood. I don't think it'll be consistent with anything up there. I'm saying it's gonna help it. Totally disagree.
That was my person.
I mean, even the comment that, why don't we put a, so you're not proposing a regular street go through there, right?
No,
For subdivision?
this can be a private drive.
Why wouldn't you ask for a regular street for subdivision?
We can take a look at that. We would feel as though it would be better for the city to have a private drive taken care of by the development instead of a public street being created.
Well, also, I mean, the planning board, we can't grant more than 6 units anyways, so we couldn't give you 9 that you requested.
So this is a lot line that we're proposing, so which is limited to 6 per lot.
But now you're talking about subdividing it, so now we're looking at one big piece. It's one address to begin with, right? 113, right? I mean, people park there now to the right of the building, right? So you're taking, right now, if you look at 113, to the right, there's about 4 or 5 cars that park there. They live across the street. When I was sitting there yesterday, they parked there and they walked across the street. So you're talking about taking parking off the street, now you're going to be putting parking on the street. I mean, I just think special permit has nothing to do with what Walker Street looks like at all. All you're doing is cramping this whole little thing in on the side of Walker Street and stick it in the back. That's my opinion. Anybody else?
I think, Mr. Chairman, to your point, and what I think in the memo was alluding to as well, especially, I think, Matt, when you're looking at the intent of the zoning, it's that private drive is servicing the same development, and it's right on, it's going through the lot line. So really, when you're looking at it, it's, you know, it really is, what do you have, 1, 2, 9 units that are being serviced by the same drive. In the spirit of what the attempt to, in a TMF zone.
Yes.
It really is, appears to really be, and I would argue, I guess, maybe technically, you've got 2 different lots you're creating, but it really is, it's a lot that's being serviced all at the same development's being serviced. So,
Yeah, so we looked at, you know, similar to the development on Moore Street, Moore and Andrews, where we utilized the private drive.
Right.
And then you have the access off of the drive instead of doing the individual driveways.
Right.
So you limit the amount of driveways. So we can, you know, have a drive come in, subdivide the lot, have a drive come in, redevelop this lot to the maximum of the 4 units. On this particular lot, it would be 4 units because that's what the land area per dwelling unit would allow, right? You would put in a separate drive, put some parking out back, and do some sort of residential development building.
Now, could you meet all your setbacks and your open space
Everything would meet
requirements?
all the setback requirements. It would be completely conforming. And then you'd end up having 2 drives to access 2 separate developments. But the nice thing about this is that you're utilizing one drive, not taking away any parking on the street in order to satisfy the same density that would be on the entire parcel than to do the 2. Does that make sense?
No, I understand
So-
I really would almost like to see it in 2 different layouts, because it really, it's, and,
Right.
and again, you reference Andrews and Moore Street. You know, that was, you had all the facades on Andrews Street, so it
Yep.
really looks nice. It fits right into the neighborhood.
Yep.
And then the whole idea was when you turned onto Moore Street, you don't have the, so to speak, the gable or the butt end of the development looking like it is not facing that street with the.
Yeah, we wrapped it around the
yeah,
corner
And it
there.
really went across. It wasn't like, this is, I don't like the way that looks. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
it's not, that's meant to look like you had to satisfy a porch. Yeah, I mean, with not a real attempt at really making it look like that building is facing the road. And a lot of work went into that in the city's original master plan, and we went around the city looking at developments that, especially when up in the 80s, a lot of condo developments went in, you know, the term that's overused maybe is infill, but condo projects that went in sideways in neighborhoods, and, you know, you're driving and you got a home facing this way, and all of a sudden, you know, you've got the end of the unit, and you've got 6 units running down a narrow lot. It's just not, it doesn't enhance the character of a neighborhood whatsoever.
Yeah, and we can wrap that fully down and make a full farmer's porch on that end unit. And the nice thing about this lot, we have the depth in order, we can provide that, certainly, and make that end unit look like a front of a unit, even with a, you know, a sidewalk connection down to the sidewalk from the end of that unit as well.
Now, is it technically one lot right now?
There's 2 lots there, but it's.
That's not the boundary of it, though, right?
The boundary of it's here.
Of the existing? Okay, all right, that's what I want to say.
It is a combination of 2 parcels. This is a 2-family dwelling here. It just has, you know, it's just a very large lot for this area. It's not indicative of this neighborhood to have a lot this big. So we can provide to you a plan which would show, you know, a subdivision line here, just similar to the one that we're showing. And then what you'd end up doing is having a building or some townhouses on each lot. You bring a drive up, you would have parking in the rear on each one. And then there would just be access to, you know, a garden-style building. Or it could, you know, even be townhouses, but the parking would be in the rear. Or it could come off the side. But you could have the project look the same, you know, pretty similar. It's just, the nice thing about the access easement in the drive is it just makes it conducive to servicing both of the units. And then you also, I know I keep repeating myself, but you know, you're limiting the curb cuts to Walker, and you're centralizing the cars coming out of the development in one
It's
location.
just kind of tough, because it will have the appearance of one lot, and it'll have the appearance of 9 units going in on one lot. I mean, the way it's designed right now.
Yep.
Which is, you know, doesn't meet the spirit of
Okay, so you'd rather have the 2 separate entrances servicing 2 separate buildings?
Yeah, and I mean, I'd like to see what that looks like. I mean,
Sure.
I'm not telling you it's that, but and with an attempt of making it work, not just an attempt to say, hey, look how bad this looks compared to what.
No, I understand. If that's the better way to go, then we would most certainly do 2 separate entrances and
Right.
service a residential building with
And
2
then without any variances, I mean, you know, meeting all your.
No,
your
exactly, right.
setbacks and your open space requirements.
Yep.
And just to give it a look, I'd like to see that, because I really think I think this doesn't meet the spirit of the TM zone as far as, it is, no matter how you're gonna slice it, it's gonna look like one lot with 9 units on it.
Yeah, I mean.
And I know it's a good-sized lot, I do know that, yeah.
The nice thing about this was all this room in the back.
Yeah.
Because of the limitation of the 6 units on one lot. So you end up with all this, what I thought was quality open space, additional parking for visitors.
Yeah.
and you're able to utilize that extra land to help support the townhouses, so they don't have to look for parking on the street, and it can be accommodated in the rear of the lot. And fully has more than ample usable open space also with it. In quality open space tracks. A load of snow storage on this site. I think these could look very nice individually with this access drive with landscaping, which would.
Right, yeah, we didn't even get into that.
Right, so we have a load of area here to create a beautiful landscaped development here. Because of all the extra area, because it is limited to the 6. We always have too much land.
Right. Understood. Those are my comments. But again, the porches, I would make it, again, not just tagging something on there, is really make it look like it's intended to be the facade of the unit, and if it can even be the facade of the unit, and however you would lay that out. And I really would like to see it as two separate developments and how that looks.
Okay.
Because again, it really does, it does not meet the spirit of what the zoning was trying to accomplish there.
Okay.
Understood it's a good-sized lot, which kind of creates this
Right.
conundrum in a way, but.
Yeah, and we can show how we would fully propose it as 2 separate lots, and if you feel as though, yes, that still looks good doing the 2 separate lots, you may end up going back to this scenario, making some modifications so that it doesn't detract from the intent of the zoning, so it doesn't look like one big development.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Caleb, any questions, comments?
Not really questions, but I think the balance here is like this, the intent of zoning, as zoning board, we want to stick to it, but at the same time, I can see the merit of a shared drive, a shared HOA, and you rather have less pavement than more pavement, and then also you give no trouble to a fire truck to going in as well. But we do need to consider, the zoning part of it. So I also look forward to, like, when you do submit the plan to kind of give us, as member for Mr. Frechette mentioned, that we have something to compare to.
Sure. Well, I appreciate all the feedback. I didn't know if the chairman had a.
No, no further comments, I'll just check it over the plan.
Okay, great.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep.
Wish you well. Okay, moving along on the agenda, we have next is 2020 meeting schedule that was submitted to us the other day to look over for our approval. Any questions or comments on that?
Look good.
We don't need a motion on that, just more for info.
No, I do think we need a motion to approve it.
Motion made to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion's allowed. Administrative signatory authority.
That's just a request. I want to revise the list. It would update my title, and then we'd also include Jared as a signatory authority to endorse plans on behalf of the board. I have a letter here that if the board agrees that it would be Eric Slagle, the Director of Development Services, myself, and Jared. If the board motioned to approve it, I'll reflect it in the minutes, but I have a letter endorsed by the chair that we would send to the Registry of Deeds and the Land Court in Boston.
With that, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the list of signatories.
Motion made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And any further comments from any planning board members from their upcoming boards that they're on, or any notifications, anything with historic? I'll start with you,
We had
Richard.
an interesting meeting with National Grid on that building at the corner of Rock and School. And we granted them to tear it down because they came up with a really nice proposal to dress up the area, fix up the sidewalks, put up walls at the intersection, really improve the atmosphere there, particularly right around the school. Well, that building's coming down, it is kind of an eyesore, it's useless for them.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, last evening was the NEMCOG, first NEMCOG meeting since our little summer recess. And I just wanted so everybody can put it on their calendar, and invitations will be going out. But the annual meeting will be held October 16th at Lindsay's in Drake this year. And I know Mr. Lockhart usually goes, and I think Calabi probably would enjoy that as well. Not that the chairman would enjoy it as well, but it's just and but begin at 6 p.m. And we actually have, the council has a meeting, I should say, at 6 p.m., a quick meeting. The reception begins at 6:30 with followed by a dinner and a speaking program at 7 o'clock, so.
Rich mentioned, do you know who your guest speaker would be yet, or
You
that's
know, I think that I dare say, I forget the person's name, but the focus is gonna be on transportation.
Okay.
And, which is actually, critical, as far as public transportation, either using, the bus service or the train service, so, I think it's gonna be, a very interesting topic, that evening, so.
I think particularly with something like the micro-mobility stuff coming up, I mean, that will have even more meaning.
Yeah, no, it's
I don't know after this development where there will be others who follow suit.
Yeah.
We're gonna cram a lot more apartments into small lots.
Yeah, for sure, yeah. Okay, anything further? Anything further from staff? No?
Mr. Chairman, I noticed on the agenda we were approving tonight's meeting at the same time, too, by the way. Did you see that?
It's supposed to be 9:05, but I forgot to send those to you.
Christine told me earlier that she didn't have those minutes available, so I told them we could postpone until next meeting.
I just thought it was
So-
funny, was tonight's date on it.
Oh, tonight's date by mistake, oh, okay. So if not, then we can entertain a motion to adjourn, made by Caleb, second by Mr. Fischett. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Good night, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you.